Email copy is incredibly difficult to write. It's so easy to get it wrong. There are a million things that go into it that all have to perfectly flow to create a copy that actually gets people interested in the thing you're selling. That's why I decided in this video, I would put together a complete guide of everything that I use to create email copy that actually works and books meetings. Without further ado, let's hop into it and I will show you the different facets of an email copy and how to replicate them in a way that flows. So there are 5 main components to an email copy that are absolutely imperative to include in some capacity. Each one of these components has their own nuances to them, so I'm going to walk you through the specifics of each one and ideally give you a better picture of how a great cold email looks as a whole. So the first one of these components is, of course, the intro. If your intro isn't good, people aren't even going to get past that part and read the rest of your email, so you want to ensure that it is absolutely perfect. So how do you make an intro great? The 2 main things that you should look for when writing an email are A, is it personalized, and B, is it relevant? A personalized intro allows the prospect to realize that you're actually interested in the thing that they're doing, or at least have done your research on the company. That might not be the case if you're going to personalize your outbound at scale like I do, but regardless, it gets them past the filter of, is this just a massive email blast that is being sent to hundreds of thousands of people? When you personalize an email, you should make sure it's something relevant to the prospect, whether about their company or them. For example, you can congratulate them on a new fundraise. You could mention that they have a bunch of job openings. You could even mention a recent award that they won. On the personal side, you could mention something about where they live, maybe a major event that happened then, a sports team. Really, with the personalization you provide in the intro, you should make sure it's something that flows into your email well. Ideally, something that moves the conversation slightly into the problem that the company is addressing, which is the next thing that I'm going to mention. Addressing the problem, in short, brings up a pain point that the company is likely experiencing. When you send a cold email, you have to think, how am I solving a problem that this company is experiencing? If you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be sending out an email yet. At the end of the day, companies are only going to be interested in services or products that solve a problem, and recognizing what that problem is before they even get into your product is a great way of getting companies interested in the thing that you're selling. For example, if you're selling sales automation like I do, it's going to be pretty difficult to get somebody to be interested in your services if they're not looking for sales automation. If all of their outbound flows are completely automated, there's no reason to be using my service. However, if you can, you should make it specific to the company, because of course that will allow the prospect to again realize, okay, this isn't just a random email blast. I'm getting some really important information here. Somebody recognizes the problems that my company is facing. But if you can't find information specific to their problem about the company at scale using a service like Clay, then I would go with something broader. For example, most SaaS companies have trouble growing their YouTube. Something a little broader, but it's still something for them to relate to as a whole. The next component of a great cold email is the value proposition. Now that we've pointed out the problem to the prospect, we of course have to provide them with a unique or distinct way to solve their issue. This is especially the case if your market is saturated. For example, if you're a lead generation agency or maybe a commercial real estate firm, there are a dime in a dozen and you have to find a way to differentiate yourself from the rest of the flock. Sometimes you don't need a differentiated solution if you're one of the only companies in your space or you're something so completely unique or out there that it doesn't involve it. For example, if you have the cure to cancer, nobody else has that, so just having the cure to cancer will suffice for sure. However, if you're something more saturated, I would definitely recommend asking yourself, what is a differentiator that allows us to be varied from our competitors? So here's a bad example of what you would want to say if you are in a saturated market. We're a lead gen agency that helps companies close more deals. That's not good because every single lead gen agency says that. That's their pitch. It just doesn't really do anything to help. A better example, not even great, but a better example would be saying we use hyper-personalized sales automation to book meetings at a higher rate than anyone else. A great differentiator for a lead gen agency would be something so out there and so eye-catching that people will respond just out of pure intrigue. We send passenger pigeons to people's doors to sell them on your products. Sounds a lot more interesting than an email agency. Anything you can do to differentiate yourself in a cold email is highly, highly recommended. The fourth thing that is incredibly important to a cold email, arguably one of the most important things, is social proof. However, it's also the only one in this list that you might not be able to create off the bat, no matter what. For someone just starting out, you might not have any proof that you've done a good job or had great results in your company. For example, if you're starting a marketing agency and you've never done any great marketing for a company with your agency yet, you don't have any social proof. If that's the case, your offer has to be incredibly good, and we'll get into that in a second. However, if you do have great case studies, you should absolutely mention them in the social proof section. Make sure it's as relevant to the prospects you're reaching out as humanly possible. For example, example, if you're reaching out to a zoo to provide zoo cleaning services, make sure to mention that you've gone to other zoos as well and that you've had amazing results there too. And it's also very highly recommended to provide some sort of number or quantitative result in the social proof. For example, we booked 100 meetings for X. We made $10 million for this company. Something that has quantitative results is a lot easier for somebody to read and catches the eye a lot better. The last thing that you should have in a cold email copy is the offer. And this is far and away the most important aspect of any cold email. I cannot express this enough. Please make your offer as good as it possibly can be. This offer should be as enticing as is profitably possible. You should try to make your offer so unbelievably good that a prospect has no choice but to respond. They used to call it a no-brainer offer, and it's honestly a great way to look at it. It should be a no-brainer for the prospects to respond. Offers should give somebody either more time, more money, or more quality of life. So think about it in that case. Are you making their job easier with your offer? Are you saving them time with your offer? Are you saving them money with your offer? What does it provide that makes the person happier in the end when their offer has been fulfilled? If you have less social proof, for example, you don't have any great case studies as to how good your past work is, then you need to have a better offer. If you have 100 clients, 20 case studies, and a huge wait list of people begging to work with you, then the offer can simply just be, we're giving you the opportunity to work with us. Look how big our wait list is. However, if you have no clients and you have no case studies, then you might even need to offer free work or a free trial, something that de-risks the situation significantly for the prospect. Ideally, when you send an offer, regardless of what stage of company you're in, the client should feel no pressure to respond. To dive deeper into that concept, when the prospect responds, you want them to not be afraid that someone's going to start selling to them really heavily or harassing them or trying to get them into some tight corner that they can't get out of. You want to make sure that your offer de-risks that. So here's a couple different offer ideas that you can use in your cold emails. The first one would be to work with a certain guarantee. This is of course highly recommended if you don't have any social proof. So for example, we'll give you this much SEO growth or you don't pay us. We'll guarantee 1,000 followers on LinkedIn per month or you don't pay us. Something along the lines of like, there's no risk to you signing with us other than a little bit of time. And what does that matter if we're getting you great results? And the odds that we get you great results, maybe not as high as an established agency, but you're doing it for free as opposed to paying these massive upfront payments. Something else would be a free trial of your product. This is especially good if your product provides upfront immediate value. A dinner meeting paid for by you. If you're local to a lot of your prospects, maybe you work in real estate, saying, hey, there's this really fancy restaurant nearby. Let's go and have a dinner meeting together. I'll pay for it completely. That could be a really good offer as well. Or a valuable piece of data. For example, I have done a campaign for a UGC content aggregator that gave prospects a list of all their UGC content made in the past 3 months, which got great responses. Another campaign that I've run before is where you offer a list of the person's LinkedIn followers and all of the emails associated with those followers. So you can see what I'm saying. An offer can be anything that's enticing to the prospect that's related to what you're selling them. And the bonus, of course, although there are 5 main components, the last one that is highly recommended if you can fit it well is personalization. A lot of people use personalization almost as a buzzword in cold outbound. They say we have these hyper-personalized emails, we do all of this stuff with a bunch of interesting data, but in reality, only use personalization if it's relevant or it adds value. Personalization is not a gimmick and it's not something that's going to go away. The only personalization that's going to go away is personalization that's bad. Or maybe if somebody's telling you this is the hottest new personalization to use in your cold email, that's going to start going bad. But if you have really solid personalization, it should be client specific. Nobody should be able to copy your personalizations and be able to do anything unless they're working for your client as well. One example of a value-adding relevant personalization is creating a list of job titles that the company is likely targeting based on their description. So if you're a lead gen agency saying, hey, I'm assuming you're selling to these 3 job titles. What if I sent you a list of 1,000 of those people? That'd be a great personalization leading into a great offer. Or something along the lines of referencing data that points out a problem. For example, your SEO score on your website's really low. We fixed that. Right? Now that personalization is relevant to the company, it's accurate, and it's leading into the value proposition of your company. So now that we've gotten over the 5 big elements of email copy, I wanted to get into some tips for running cold emails. And before I get into it, huge shout out to Eric Nowoslawski, one of the wizards of cold email. And a lot of these ideas are completely his, and I just want to point that out, but they are absolutely so unbelievably effective. I didn't even want to change anything. The first thing is the email structure. Your email structure should have no more than 4 emails. Eric says 3, I say 4, but you'll see why. The first one should introduce the offer. It should get the client familiar with what you're selling them and addressing the problem, all the things that I mentioned in the first email that you should have. The second one should provide more context or come from a different angle. So you should be providing context as to what your offer is, or you should try to find another problem that the company's likely addressing and address it that way. It's pretty much reiterating upon the original email in a new, creative, different way. The third email should make the offer better. This is essentially your last touch. At this point, you've already sent them 2 emails, so your third email should include something different and exciting. And lastly, the fourth email should ask if there's a different decision maker at the company that you should reach out to about your services as opposed to the one that you're currently contacting. This is a great way to route your leads to somebody else within the company as opposed to just throwing them out as a prospect completely. Next, I wanted to give you some quick industry standard tips on cold email that are used by pretty much any agency in the business. These are just general things that you want to keep in mind when you're writing cold emails because a lot of people can mess these up, although they seem a little bit fundamental. The first one is to keep the email short. I would say under around 100 words is ideal. You don't want to put any more than that. The reason being, when you see a massive blurb of text, you really don't feel like reading all of it, especially if it's not about something important to you and your company. And the only way to find out of it is if they read the entire thing, which they likely won't if it's super long. Don't write them a novel, don't write them an essay, give them a quick blurb that they can digest easily. The second thing would be stay away from spam words. You might ask yourself, what is a spam word? And if you go online, you can find a comprehensive list of spam words. Essentially, a spam word is something that scammers or spammers use frequently in an email and are generally alluding to something where they're asking for money. So for example, if you say something along the lines of completely free, that might turn up as a spam word in your email. I would recommend running all of your emails through a spam word checker just to be sure before running any of your campaigns. The third one is to clearly communicate the reason that you are reaching out. You don't want a prospect to be confused as to what your email means or what you're talking about. You should be incredibly clear and concise as to the reason you are contacting them. Fourth, write at a 5th grade reading level. Do not use a bunch of fancy words that don't mean anything. Email is not the place to include buzzwords. People do not want to read a bunch of words that don't mean anything. You should make it so incredibly obvious as to what you're trying to tell them. Don't leave it up to the imagination. Next, make the message about them, not about you. You should talk about yourself as little as possible in an email. You should be only trying to address their problems, reaching out to them, talking about their company and the way that you can help them. You should be talking about you maybe 20% of the time in the email at the most. And lastly, I mentioned this before, but use social proof that has quantitative results in it. Use some sort of number in your social proof because it just catches the eye a lot better. It's a lot more convincing than we did a good job for blank. The subject line should be enticing, but not clickbaity. And it should be very, very short. Don't overthink your subject line. So many people try to make it long and overdrawn and pretty much trying to fit their email into the subject line. Keep it really simple. Analytics for company. Quick question, first name. Something really, really simple. Don't overthink this aspect of your cold emails, please. Next, I wanted to walk you through a couple campaigns I've used in the past that have done well, just to show you how short these can be and to walk you through some of the structure that I'm using. First name, congrats on the recent fundraise. I'm sure it'll help continue your mission too. And here's what the company does. Boom. Immediately addressing that I've done their research. I know what the company does. I'm the founder of Blank. We're a spreadsheet that makes tracking analytics way easier than throwing everything into a Google Sheet. That's the last time you should talk about yourself. I'm sure you'd much rather do what the founder does. So this is just a personalization guessing as to what the founder does on a daily basis. Then work on tedious analytics. Any chance you want to hop on a call and I'll create a report for you live. So again, straight to the point, using a personalization to address their problem. The problem here is obviously tedious analytics. And here is our value prop. Here is the intro. And here is another personalization to add after that. So pretty good, concise email, and it's done a really good job for us so far. This one I used to reach out to content creators in the sales space on LinkedIn to try to connect with them. All I did was say, hey, I saw your post about blank, just using their LinkedIn post and referencing them in the email, and checked your profile out afterwards. Great content. I run socials at clay.com, wanted to connect and show appreciation for the great sales content you've been posting. If you're interested, I'll send you an enriched lead list with emails of all the likers of your recent post. So we have a really enticing offer right here. And it's asking for very, very little. I am putting no pressure on the person to respond. It is so obvious that I'm just reaching out to say, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything, literally just to connect, no strings attached, no meeting required. You want to make the email as low pressure as you possibly can while still getting your point across and selling your product or service. Here are a couple from Eric. First name, I was on your site and it looks like you sell to job titles. It looks like you're trying to help. And this is just trying to say who the company is likely trying to help with their solutions. So for example, Apple looks like you're trying to help consumers have more aesthetic devices. I had to assume you're using outbound tactics considering, and here is one of the names of their SDR, is an SDR or BDR on the team. Are you thinking about how they could be leveraging better data and GPT to do their prospecting? The reason I ask is because we help companies automate their cold email outreach with large databases. Could it be worth the chat to build a custom workflow for you? So as you can see here, it is very straight to the point. It has a custom outbound workflow for free as the offer, and it's very concise and clear as to why they're reaching out. I'll do one more. saw one of your most recent LinkedIn posts about whatever the LinkedIn post is about. Seems like the last time you posted was this number of days before that though. If you're trying to build a brand on LinkedIn, have you considered a scheduling tool? Our tool can help write your posts and monitor social trends that you can riff on. Let me know if this would be useful for you and I can send you access. So you might think to yourself, social media scheduling tool couldn't have an offer. There are so many out there on the market. There's really no major differentiator, but he decided to make it sound exclusive. I can send you over access to the tool. It is offering free access to a tool that they're probably already considering. And we've already addressed the problem right here, saying that they haven't been posting enough on their LinkedIn. So these are some great examples of solid cold emails, and I'm sure you can write some just as good if you follow the principles that I outlined in this video and get yourself some leads. All right, and that is it. I hope this video brought you some value. When you end up writing that copy that gets you 1 million leads for your business and you want to get 4 to 5 million leads for your business, reach out to me. My agency does sales automation. It's called The Kiln. We use a software called Clay to scale your outbound personalizations to heights that you have never seen before. I would much appreciate it if you dropped a like and a subscribe on the channel. So have a good one, y'all.